What up, my fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork here with a new review for you. The Mandalorian, Chapter 5, The Gunslinger. I'm here with my man DiscoDork, and we are going to break this shit down. So, we pick up from last week when they had to leave the planet because of the raiders that attacked the villagers, from the homage to Seven Samurai, last week's episode. So him and Cara Dune, played by Gina Carano, they have to split because they were being tracked to that planet. So we kind of pick up where, not necessarily right where they left off, but with shortly after in space, with Mando and Baby Yoda being followed and attacked by another bounty hunter. Yeah, another bounty hunter, another jet fighter pilot.
No, because he said I can tell he's a bounty hunter because he said it. He said the same thing that Mando said in the first episode. You can go warm or cold.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we pick up with this pretty incredible aerial fight. I mean, literally from the first frame, you're seeing blasters go after Mando's ship. And it's pretty exhilarating to kind of start the episode that way. We get a lot of little Top Gun references with the way the aerial fight is kind of going, with him pulling the brakes and everything, even from the look of the bounty hunter.
Do air brakes work in space though?
It's an interesting question.
I want to say before the fans try to destroy me in the comments. Hold on. I want to say I may have noticed that when the foils come up, but also I want to say I think I saw some lights from maybe a reverse thruster. So if that's the case, then I get it. I get the reversing of the momentum. But if it was just like he hit the air brakes, the airfoils come up, and that is what slowed him down, I don't know that necessarily works in space. So yeah. Anyway, I'm overthinking. Exactly. I have a tendency to do that. I'm sorry, my brain just does that. But anyway, yes, you were saying the dogfight. Even though that dude is a terrible shot because his shot percentage is he's like 2%, because he shot like 1,000 rounds. But more importantly, though, the two that hit. One landed on each of the thrusters, causing the Mandalorian, after he does his Top Gun maneuver, his fly past maneuver, he has to land on a familiar planet.
Yes, and that I enjoy seeing that because a lot of times we keep talking about, are we going to see a lot of familiarity with some of the previous canons from the movies, and I like the fact that the Mandalorian is kind of carving out its own little they're exploring new areas of the universe, different planets, different droids, different species of aliens, and all these different things. But it's nice to come back to Mos Eisley, to come back to Tatooine. And so he has to fly down to Mos Eisley. He meets up with a mechanic engineer to repair his ship. So while he's getting his ship repaired, mind you, this I don't know the lady's name, but she's very reminiscent of Sigourney Weaver from Alien.
Her hair is
she's got that hair.
But in the face, no. Her stature is like way shorter than Sigourney Weaver.
Very much so. But so then. Yeah, like I said, so now we're kind of roaming around in some familiar landscapes that we know from some of the previous films. We go back to the cantina, and this is where we get introduced to a new character,
Toro.
There we go. Still trying to learn all these
which I think
characters.
Means bull.
Interesting.
Because Benicio del Toro means the bull. Toro is. Because when the matador goes Toro, they're calling the bull, right? Let me know in the comment section.
But we got to make sure that's his name too.
I'm telling you, his name is Toro.
Okay, all right. So yeah, this new character that we get introduced to now, he wants to be part of the Bounty Hunter Guild. So he's going after a new bounty played by Ming-na, and she is like a mercenary. She's done contract work. They mentioned even in some of the dialogue that she's done contract work for some of the different crime lords and crime syndicates, and one of them being the Hutts, which was another kind of name drop backdrop of something familiar that we know from the canon. So it was cool to kind of hear a lot of these familiar things. But I don't know, what did you think of that introduction and just first to that character of Toro and like how new and green he is? And it's weird because I didn't really see his character going the route that we see him by the end of the episode, even though once we get to the end of the episode, we're kind of falling back into some familiar tropes that we've seen before in other films when they do capture Ming-na. Spoiler alert, but that's what this review is. But in that particular opening scene, I didn't see his character going in that direction, or that was the direction that this episode was going to go down. Yeah. But what did you think of that character and that whole interaction and introduction to him?
I thought he was going to be one of those characters that, because as he expresses to Mando, I want to take this bounty. You got to help me because if I do, this will get me in the guild. Like, you can keep the money. It's not about the money for me. I just want the reputation points.
Yeah.
So I can get in the guild. And again, this being he isn't even in the guild yet, so he isn't even really about that life, so to speak. So I just figured like it's gonna be one of those episodes where here's this young kid who sees the lifestyle that Mando lives, and like y'all want in on that, not knowing like what it entails and how dangerous it is. And I figured like by the end of the episode, he's gonna get killed, and realizing, oh shit, this is too much for me. This isn't what I'm not cut out for this. But I mean, he gets killed, but his character doesn't go down that path that I expected.
Yeah, I it's interesting, man, because a lot of times with some of these episodes, and I guess talk a little bit about this as far as like with the previous episode, where I know you were mentioning before, like where is this leading to?
Yeah, because like it's funny because like even at this point, like there doesn't seem like there's a particular antagonist. One thing that's unique about the show is that with other shows, the formula would be we're with the Mandalorian. He escapes with Baby Yoda again. We're with him for a little while. They go on this adventure. Bounty hunters come after him. He narrowly escapes, and boom, they're off. And then you cut to the antagonist, like, okay, what's the status report? Where's Baby Yoda? Or why didn't you get him? You buffoon! Like, now I'm gonna do this. Like, and then you cut back to the Mandalorian. So you a lot of the times we juxtapose what's going on with the protagonist versus the antagonist. So we get a sense of escalation till they're going to meet. But even at this point, we're like 5 episodes deep, and it doesn't seem to be like a singular. There doesn't seem to be like a singular threat or antagonist. Like, we just know that he's wanted. We don't even know like what his intentions are with Yoda. We don't even know what they want Yoda for specifically, or do we? Let me know in the comments. I'm thinking like they were trying to extract midichlorians from him. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know, but there's no clear sense of where any of this is going, who the main bad guy is, where Mandalorian's going. So there's a bunch of So for me, with that, it makes each episode feel. I don't know. I'm not used to this type of storytelling, right? Because at the end of this episode, you can look. I mean, as well crafted as it is, and as cool as the set pieces are, and the things that happen, and as much as Baby Yoda's making noises in this particular episode, which he does more than any other episode beforehand. So I foresee like a lot of people loving that fact. There's like at the end of the day, I go, okay, well, if you don't watch this episode at all, like if for some reason you watch episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you have a bye week, you skip episode 5 and you pick back up on 6, how much of what you miss would play? I mean, outside of Ming-Na Wa's character, which she's introduced, but we only get like a total of like 3, maybe 4 minutes of screen time with her out of a 30-minute episode. Yeah. So even if you just came in on the last part of the episode, like, or you excised it, like what would you lose? You know what I'm saying? Like how detrimental would taking out this episode be? Like what purpose did it serve? Like, as far as the character of Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, what transpired with them that is essential to their story.
True. And I guess I have 2 points. And one I mentioned earlier, but I think I have 2 points, I guess, and not necessarily an answer to that, but 2 points as far as considering that. One is, I mentioned this in like, I think one of the first 2 episodes where I compared it to Mad Max Fury Road.
Don't do that.
I know. But it feels like how I was saying before, when you look at shows like Game of Thrones and we're jumping around to like different stories, and sometimes we'll follow certain characters and then we won't see another storyline, and so we're not going back and forth between like antagonist, protagonist, or other characters within this, and it feels like we're staying with the Mandalorian on this journey, but we're not really seeing all the other stuff that's happening around him. Which I kind of like. I kind of like that to a degree, but there are some points where I do feel like I would like to get some exposition or get something else to kind of know, or at least maybe try to raise the stakes with that a little bit. But also on the other hand, going to the last episode, which I mentioned a little bit earlier as well, was like there's been a lot of conversation about filler. And a lot of times we don't really know if something is a filler episode until we've actually seen the entirety of the season, because we don't know how any of this stuff is really going to play out or is going to inform us or pay off in these next 3 episodes that we have. Going to your point, I think a lot of maybe what we saw in this particular episode really comes down to like the last shot of this episode, as far as like how this will propel the story forward into the back half of this season, whether it be the person that we see at the end of that last shot is Giancarlo Esposito, how ming-na is going to play in the remainder of this season or in the second season, or how whatever we know of her character so far. But it's kind of hard to say up to this point. But yeah, from where we left off, or from how the show was progressing in the first 3 episodes, and then now looking at last week and this week, looking at them in a vacuum, they do. I could see how people can have that either complaint or concern about it being filler. Yeah. But again, we don't know, because I know we're going to see Cara Dune again, so we know that that was important last week to at least. And again, I think a lot of it is also just being introduced to characters. We're still being introduced to a lot of these characters. Yeah. More than halfway through the season, ming-na, we still have Giancarlo. So we're still getting introduced to characters. And I think, for me, it seems like that's the main purpose of some of these latter episodes, is to introduce us to these new characters for hopefully what's going to be a great season finale where we see all of them together. Maybe that's what they're building to. I don't know. So
we'll see. We only got like 3 episodes left.
Yeah. This one was directed by Dave Filoni.
And what I'm thinking, like, if you look at it, because there are so many questions to be answered, that would have to mean that within these last 3 episodes, there's going to be a lot of friggin' revelations and information dumped.
Could be.
As to what's up with Carl Weathers, or
that's right.
He ain't dead.
No, and they made a point to show us that he wasn't. So I mean, it really feels like all these characters.
We have to find out about Baby Yoda.
Yeah,
which I heard the next episode is going to go into like his backstory, or whatever.
Okay.
So and the episodes are only like 30, 35 minutes long, so I know. You can do a whole entire episode about him.
Yeah.
But we still have to find out about Ming-Na Wa's character. Giancarlo Esposito has to be introduced, and then there has to be some end point, not as a whole for the Mandalorian's character, but from at the very least from the start of the season to the end of the season.
Yeah, it's got to be some type of arc. Yeah,
right?
It's got to be an arc for his character.
All that stuff and plus stuff we're not even considering right now in 3 episodes. So I'm pretty exciting prospect when you think about it.
And like I said, they've surprised us with the length of these episodes. So who knows? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the last 3 episodes are like an hour long. Or I probably won't be, but I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, because it really feels like they, like you say, they're using the time as much as they need to tell the story. So if they need more time, they have it at their disposal.
You know what though? I don't know if this has been talked to, because I don't read too much about the Mandalorian online, but I wonder if the length of the episodes is tied to the production costs, because if you look at the production value of each episode, I mean, they're damn near like movie quality.
Yeah.
And so I know that's not cheap. I know that's expensive.
Well,
and so I appreciate it, but also, again, if you're getting the narrative across in 30 minutes, then that's fine. Cool with me. You know, look good and be efficient at the same time. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I know the budget was like $100 million for the whole season. So 8 episodes, I think that breaks down to like $15 million an episode. So that's still.
We were talking like Game of Thrones was like went up to $2 million per episode, or whatever.
Four to five
million per episode
towards the end. So
yeah, and that's for like hour long, 40, 50 minute, 60 minute episodes.
That's what I'm saying. And Marvel's dumping even more. They're doing 25 mil an episode. So they're dumping like 150
the
mil.
Marvel episodes gonna be like 5 minutes.
I know, 20-minute episodes.
They're gonna be commercials. You get a trailer. Oh, you see that new Wanda trailer?
Oh man, that
Chapter 2.
That shit was so pretty, but it was short as hell. But yeah. But yeah, man. I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot more that has to be explored, and like these last couple episodes feel like they don't really give us much as far as plot or moving the story forward. But I'm gonna reserve the right, to come back to these episodes to see how everything kind of ends. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to end on a high note, that they're going to be able to bring all these characters to converge in a meaningful way, whether it's Cara Dune and Carl Weathers' character, ming-na, John, even Werner Herzog and
because we haven't seen him since the second episode.
Yeah, the third.
Yeah.
So him and the scientists. And I mean, which will probably give us some backstory or inform us as far as what their plans were for Baby Yoda. And did it have to include midichlorians or whatever the case is? So I don't know, man. I'm trusting the brain trust behind this series, the producers, the storytellers, and because I don't know, I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. So
yeah, I don't know, because if you think about it, if these last 2 or maybe even just the last episode is heavy on tying up all these loose ends or answering all these questions, it does run the risk, in my opinion, of making this episode, the previous episode, really seem like filler. Because if you explore like Werner Herzog's character, or we come back to Carl Weathers' character, or Cara Dune's character, or Ming-na, or Giancarlo Esposito, like, how much does what we need answers for really have to do with the young kid, the speeder bike stuff, the mechanic lady in this episode, the villagers, the Seven Samurai stuff in the episode? Like, how much does that have to do with what's going on with Baby Yoda, his backstory, the Mando's backstory, and where his character's ultimately going to be?
But see, I don't have a problem with that, because for me, I think it's just fleshing out the world. It's just making the world feel more fully realized. I mean, I don't have a problem. I don't think it takes away.
I'm not saying it's taken away. I'm just saying, like, I enjoyed those episodes. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, it's just something that I'm considering. Like, at the end of the day, like, but ultimately, that really comes from the lack of answers that I have right now of where is this all leading to. And
yeah.
So, but I mean, we got 3 more episodes to go. So
and I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see how all this is going to end. So, that's our initial reaction review for Chapter 5 of Mandalorian. Say bye.
Say goodbye.
Say bye to everybody.
Say goodbye.
Say, man, forget them folks, man.
Okay.
Up in this jump. Chapter 5, The Gunslinger. Be sure to check out the podcast at ItModcast on Twitter, Facebook, and social media, everywhere. Go ahead and find the podcast on Podbean, on Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Are we on Spotify? We need to look into that.
Maybe.
But look, just look up ItModcast wherever podcasts are found. Check out our other dorks at MouthDork, at the DiscoDork, at WB Dash, at Sidewalk Siren. I am the Turtle Dork. You've seen Dog Dork.
Akuma.
And with that, folks, we out.